Cool. All right, awesome. I think I already see that we have close to, wow, the numbers are jumping up already, 35 people. So this is awesome. I really welcome you to this talk. And just a bit of housekeeping before. Hi, everybody. Hi, Maria. Hi. I can see some names here. Richard. Hey, let's go, Richard. Yeah, I see Pritish as well. Hi. Welcome. This is awesome. I mean, so, interesting thing is, the last couple of years in the field of machine learning and deep learning, computer vision has been probably the most fascinating topic from 2014, 2015. And people have been complaining like, okay, language models, nothing is going to happen, and people, and it's a complex problem to solve. Yes, we all know this. And then we started following OpenAI, as most of you may or may not know. Has been was an open initiative. It's now like a capped commercial company right now, backed by Microsoft with $1 billion worth of investment. And they have been launching GPT, the language model, since the last year and a half, and it's been very popular. And so recently with the GPT-3, I'm sure you heard a lot in the news. I'm sure you're seeing all these applications and some interesting things happening, and people are like going crazy and saying, wow, software can program itself. And obviously, I was looking at a few applications, and I saw one of interesting applications which our guest, Sushant Kumar, has built. And since then, he's already done 2-3 other applications, which is fascinating. So he's super fast in kind of building those interfaces. And without much ado, you know me, so I mean, but still, you see me here. I'll open up my presentation later, just to give you all of you a bit of a perspective how we're going to run this workshop. So we'll do the introductions. I am Terry, CEO and co-founder of DeepKafa, Real AI, and our to-be-launched Live AI, which is a European AI platform for folks to learn machine learning and deep learning. With me, I have Sushant Kumar, and we'll do the introduction, Sushant. After the introduction, I will give you a very quick kind of a whirlwind view into what is GPT. And then I'll let Sushant take over and kind of give you his real world experience, what he's built with GPT so far. When I say GPT, then I mean GPT-3, the third generation model that they have developed. So without much ado, I want to introduce Sushant. So we get to know who Sushant is, and all of us, you guys as well. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Sushant. Welcome to the live talks.
Hi everyone. I'm it's really good to be on this show and talk about what I've been working with lately. And so a little bit about myself. I am actually a graduate of 2014, IIT Bombay. And post that, I did a year in Bank of America, explored and dabbled with finance. And after that, I started my entrepreneurial journey with Azuro. I met a really good set of people, and actually we started off with something that wasn't really what. So Azuro right now wasn't really what we started with. So there was a lot of pivoting, and we ended up where we are right now. So Azuro is into property management, and we have been using all kinds of technology to scale property management in India, which is actually a very, very underdeveloped field in India right now. It's been 4 years, and it had been a great journey. And then we met some really like-minded people at Square Yards who have actually were doing a similar thing in kind of buy and sell for the property management. They are present across 8 countries, and we felt there was a lot that we can do together, and that's how Azure and Square Yards got together, and now we are on a mission to actually scale property management globally. And
Awesome.
yeah, so we have been doing a lot of things on language modeling in our company, and recently I've been exploring a lot of these NLP models. And obviously, as a hobby, I just keep exploring more on whatever is cutting edge. And so GPT was something that I really found interesting, and then I was just trying to look into what are the ways in which we can integrate it into different fields, and how we can make it more useful and actually develop products that can scale fast, and that can be done really, really fast.
Awesome. So this is really wonderful, Sushant. I know your startup, and I'm sure people, if you have questions around how did he do his startup journey, we'll take those questions as well. I think it's very important to understand that it's, besides that, it's kind of a really interesting workshop around understanding what is language models, natural language understanding, natural language generation. It is also important to kind of get to know people who are developing tools and products and even building companies. So entrepreneurship is also a really interesting topic. Folks should sort of feel free to ask questions. You can all post your questions. I'll just give you an example. If there is a question, it's a pretty nice, nifty interface with StreamYard. I'll keep pulling in questions after our talk is, in between our talks. And that way, we can answer your questions. So keep posting your questions. Don't worry. Whenever you want to ask your questions, just jump in and ask, and we will answer your questions. We won't take too much of your time. I know it's, everybody's flooded with all these online interfaces and meetings and online meetings. We'll try to close this chat in the next maybe 40 minutes, 45 minutes max. And hopefully you guys are able to have a lot of fun and enjoy and learn some stuff about it. Cool. What I'm going to do is I am going to now put it on a full screen. So what happens is that allows me to show you the presentation. And that gives you a bit of an idea around natural language processing. So I guess let's get started with this. So let me just kind of, so let me just put the screen here so that I'm just now on a full screen, and make sure that I clear up here. So basically, GPT, these are sort of large, massive models, language models, and they've been sort of being fascinating. They've been doing some wonderful job in how things are evolving. And you have an input, for instance, these models are trained on really large corpus of data. So, essentially, I'm sure you have seen, for example, Google also tends to give you some kind of a suggestion. If you say, I am looking for, and then it's going to, are you looking for, I don't know, vacation, or I would like to play with football. So it tends to do sort of sentence correction. And GPT is far more advanced because of its semantic maturity and semantic beauty. So these are a couple of really interactive sort of visualizations that I picked up from from a guy called Jay Alamar. So I want to give a full sort of recognition and credit to the person who's created these. And you should be able to look up on his website. He makes some really interesting visualizations. So great shout out to that wonderful gentleman who spends time making these interesting visualizations. All right. Before we get into this, just to give you a bit of an idea around, who we are. So we've sort of been in the industry for a couple of years now. Sort of advancing our stuff in live AI talks is kind of, in a way, an interesting way to sort of bring and advance our learnings beyond these learners, which I have personally trained at universities around the world. So I'm visiting faculty at the University of Dallas in the US, and also advisory board member at the university here in the Netherlands, in Utrecht. And in any case, so after having trained 27,000+ people around the world in the last couple of years, we thought, it's time to bring live online. We didn't actually calculate that Corona would be hitting us, but when we started thinking of this idea, but with the Corona, it's become a lot easier for us to kind of, take this decision. So we have wonderful people who've been building right now a lot of tools to kind of make these things come alive. And who knows, maybe Sushant might be inspired as well to kind of participate in some really interesting GPT idea, which we are working on. Awesome. So, okay. Well, this is the way we believe that people should learn. I mean, everybody has a learning journey, and I believe your learning journey should be something like this. So let's get into the language models and understand what is GPT and how GPT works. Okay. So, for example, GPT is a large, it's a large trained language model that generates text. It's optionally sort of, it passes and asks in some text, and and which influences its output. So the output is generated what the model has learned during its training period when it's scanned a huge corpus of data. So there's been like 175 billion sort of parameters that this eventually data set has learned. GPT for many people, sort of the full sort of explanation is it's a general pre-trained transformer and then version 3. And so basically, let's move into the next. So basically, what it does, it has a data set of. So it was trained. So it's training. It was trained for a lot of models, for a lot of text, and it's one trained model so far. As for whatever that we know, it could be potentially that they have trained several models and they've just exposed one model to us that they feel is safe enough to bring to the world. But for so far, we believe that there's one model that is out there that has been trained, okay? And basically, it takes about 300 billion tokens of text and predicts the next word. So, for example, a robot must, and then it fills in, with that untrained model, it gives you an output. It was estimated it cost about 355 GPU years to actually build this model. And I believe the costs were close to $12 million, not 4. I believe it was a lot more. But I guess that was the effort that was sort of needed to kind of make this model. And if you just look at this, the model is presented with the example, and you only sort of show it in the features and ask it to sort of predict the next word. The model's prediction will be wrong. You basically calculate the error in the prediction and update the model so the next time it makes a better prediction. And then you essentially are repeating it millions and millions of times to do that. Okay, so you have an example, and then you keep saying second law of robotics is second law of robotics is robot, and that's how it kind of sort of starts becoming mature. And basically, so this is the unsupervised pre-training. This is how it looks like, right? So you have the input, you have the updating, the model updating, and then you have an output, and then you have the correction. All right, and now let's sort of take simple steps a bit to understand how GPT actually generates output one token at a time, and let's assume sort of token is the word for now, for example. And then basically what you notice, GPT is a description of how it works. It's discussion. Actually, there's, for all of there's a 75 to 80 page paper that has been published. It has full details of how this model was built and trained. And I will sort of, I still have myself, the document. I printed it out. I'll show you maybe later. Try to read that document. So this is in no way, a full-fledged explanation of what GPT is. It's really huge. Like I said, it has encoded what it learns from training 175 billion parameters. And these sort of parameters are used to calculate which token to generate at each run. Okay, the untrained model starts with random parameters, basically. So you have an untrained model, okay? It starts with random parameters, and training, it finds the values that lead to a better prediction model, right? So these numbers are sort of parts of hundreds of matrices inside the model, and the prediction is mostly a ton of matrix multiplication. And I'm sure you've heard of that already if you are a bit familiar with machine learning or deep learning. That essentially is a matrix a multiplication process. And so to get a bit of idea on how these models or parameters are distributed, you need to open up the model and take a look inside the model. So basically, this is the context window we are talking about. So GPT-3 is 2,048 tokens wide. That's massive, as you can imagine. And what it means is it has 2,048 tracks. It has 2,048 tracks along all the tokens that are processed. So basically, this is how it looks. So for the, if you just follow the purple track, you'll see, the system, the way they process the word robotics produces an A, right? So, you convert the word to a vector essentially, and then you complete the prediction, which is, well, not the magic, but it kind of, this is where you do the multiplications, you're sort of approximating, you're reducing the error, the typical cycle you have in your deep learning training. And then essentially it converts the results from the vector to a word. So word to vector, that, you do your transformation. And then on the other side, you output, again, vector to word. So basically, here you see is, for example, you have the important calculations of GPT occur inside the stack of 96 transformer decoder layers. So you see all these layers, and this is what actually is essentially the deep of the deep learning. So it has 96 decoder layers. That's like massive. And essentially, each of these layers has 1.8 billion parameters to make its calculations. So you can already kind of imagine the breadth and the depth of a model that has been trained. So just to give you an example, there have been a bunch of, if you look at their paper, you can access those data sets yourself. Wikipedia and a bunch of other data sets that have been used to actually train these models. So this is just a very high level sort of overview of how these models actually look like. And a detailed sort of explanation you should be able to find, in the paper as well. And there are many other papers that talk about sort of alternating dense and sparse and self-attention layers and a bunch of other things. So essentially, this is sort of more like a view into how the input and the response looks like, right? So okay, and then you say, okay, a robot must obey the orders given it. Okay, human. So essentially, what you're saying is, you really don't care about the output of the first words. When the input is done, you start caring about. That's when you start caring about the output. You feed every word back into the model. So, for example, and I think in the example, Sushant is going to show you how it generates examples. So that you'll see in the real world sort of, in real world example. So, for example, here you can see an input into search. Does actually in any of these web apps that you've been seeing. For example, I think here it's been referred to the app that was creating a full sort of HTML code. So basically, your input, you say search, to code, and the class application just extends a React component. And React was one of the apps. There was a gentleman, I think he created a nice app in which you remember he was creating buttons and color of text and all that stuff. So basically, fine-tuning actually updates the model's weights to make the model actually conduct a task much better. All right. So essentially, you have a pre-training. You're essentially taking the GPT with 175 billion parameters. You make sort of better, approximating values, and then essentially trying to make a better, generating better output. And as you've seen already, it's fascinating output. It's almost as if a human being is creating these outputs. Let me just stop sharing my slide and go back to putting myself back on the screen. And let me just do it this way so that I can pull Sushant also back. So essentially, GPT is and I see that some people, awesome, Dipanjan is here. He's one of the good friends of ours. And Zero Shot Learning is a paper. So I could just pick you up, actually show you the paper, which is here with me. So it's basically, the name of the paper is, it's called Language Models and Few Shot Learners. It's about 75 pages, and all these examples of tasks, phrasing, and specifications, and everything is here. It's a really fascinating topic. So I'll just want to summarize it for you guys. Please do take the opportunity to come over, get online and read a bit of this natural language understanding, natural language processing, natural language generation, to kind of familiarize yourself with it. And I want to say one important thing before I hand it over to Sushant to kind of give you an introduction. There are a lot of interesting and very clever and intuitive ways to actually generate sort of very clever and intelligent text. So GPT-3, as much as it's very exciting and I think it's really wonderful, is not the only way to do that, and we won't go into that. I think it's there are different and interesting ways. What I do think that what's going to happen in the next maybe 12 months to 18 months is that there will be clever models that would have trained on large corpus of data and probably have done segmentations vertically and horizontally based on either industry domains and or specific sort of application domains. And then you will see that there will be clever and interesting models that will be arriving that will help actually industries expand. And actually, this gives a very interesting way for me to hand it over to Sushant, because I saw, I've been talking to Sushant very actively the last couple of days, and he actually was already building some interesting models. He did one for manufacturing, and all these wonderful things he's going to show to you guys. So once again, GPT is a wonderful way for us. Remember when I started saying, well, is computer vision the only thing that we should be doing? But essentially, fortunately, with language models becoming a little bit mature, and this investment that OpenAI did together with Microsoft is definitely going to pay off dramatically for a lot of companies. So in a way, $4.5 million or $12 million, it really doesn't matter, as long as, together as industry and professionals, engineers, developers, all of us together, we can build interesting models that can save lives in hospitals. Because doctors today, for example, in COVID times, there is so much of undercapacity, and then you have patients all over the world. Doctors would want to be up to date with what's happening. Can I take care of my patients in the fastest way? And potentially such interesting models can help them optimize their tasks and make it better. So this is a quick introduction. I want to hand it over to Sushant. I'm really, really excited to hear from Sushant how his journey started. So Sushant, please feel free to kind of take us to this journey. I mean, you got excited. I know you got a beta introduction, and then you started doing some fun stuff. So just take us to the story, and I'm sure you'll be demoing your apps as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me just share my screen as well. Can I do that? How do I do?
Maybe just
Yeah. So yeah. So I had been following OpenAI for quite some time. I actually I've been following OpenAI and DeepMind for the amazing work that they've been doing in the field of reinforcement learning. I have a lot of interest in what reinforcement learning can do in finance, and so that's how I've been following them. And over time, I just went through the different milestones that OpenAI achieved, such as the DOTA 515, and then over time they moved on to language models, GPT-1, GPT-2, GPT-3. Yeah. So as soon as the GPT-3 came out, and I think probably in June, July first week, and I was really excited. I wrote to them, and I wrote to Greg Brockman over email. Like this is something that's really exciting. I've been following, and I've been doing a lot of stuff with it. And within hours, I got a response from him, and he I just got access within minutes. And that night, I didn't sleep, obviously. And the next day, I had an app ready that I shared with a few of my friends. So let me get into how this thing works. So this is what I saw on the first day. So for those of y'all who don't have access to it yet, you can just register at beta.openai.com. And if you're working on something really exciting, and if you feel that you should get access much before everyone else, then probably you can drop an email to gdb@openai. He looks into these special cases, and if you have the caliber, he'll definitely kind of expedite your case. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So GPT-3, as you know, it's a text-in, text-out interface. You just it works as tokens, as Tari already explained it to you. So let me just start with something like, "Hey, hi there." You can just give it any kind of text, and what it tries to do is it tries to complete that text. So you can just write something, and you just click on submit. So it will try to complete the best possible completion for that particular text. And if you want to have a yeah. So wait a second. You need to give context. That's really important, and context is everything for these
Hmm.
language models. So so yeah, so let's see what it does. Yep. So let's see. I'm just trying to build a context that me and GPT are interacting, and let's see how it completes this particular sentence. Yeah. So so as you can see, it's trying to get the maximum probabilities, and if you want to have a look at what is the probability of each of those generated sequence, you can just switch this on and say now I just want to ask. So I can keep on asking questions and it'll keep answering. Um,
That's a good one.
let's just see what GPT thinks about this.
The future of humankind is that. Oh, aha! Hey, that's nice. That's a good. That's
Yeah,
a great example to also show. But I like the flag that they have in this, the toxicity.
yeah, yeah. So initially in the first model that I created was a tweet generator, and
Yeah, yeah.
I'll just walk you through the tweet generator as well. It's just a very simple model that was made within hours, and it got a lot of attention, and a lot of people started experimenting with it, and there was a lot of toxicity. So based on that, we had been I got in touch with GDB and the different teams at OpenAI. There's a really good policy researcher Sandhini who's working on it, and she has been working actively on reducing toxicity, and over
Wonderful.
time it got integrated into this playground. And yeah, so now
Cool.
let's dive into good use cases. So probably this is a really good use case that a lot of that I find really exciting is probably you could just give it the main bits of the stuff and it'll try to generate a good catchy headline for you. So say like I gave it some examples, and now Terry, could you help me with some keywords for which you want to generate a headline?
Climate AI. I don't know.
Climate,
Yeah, India. Climate. I don't know. Technology.
GPT,
Yeah, yeah.
technology. So let's see what it can come up with. Oh my
India
God.
plans a huge network of satellites to study climate exchange. Ah, that's nice. Topic.
It'll
Facebook,
try to
Cambridge.
weave in those. Yeah, it'll try to weave in those keywords and try to find something. Probably, if you want to be more specific, you'll have to give in more keywords, and it'll try to somehow weave in and try to make some kind of an intelligent stuff
Yeah,
out of it. Yeah.
very interesting.
Yep. So yeah, there are plenty of use cases, and if I get into each one of them, probably it'll take an entire day. But then let me just get into another one that's really useful. So this is this is grammar correction and spell check,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
yeah. So probably so this is where like you can just see how fast it learns and how close it is to AGI. Is probably you just give it one example and it kind of just from that it learns that what it needs to do. Yep.
Yeah,
And
very nice.
I went to the store yesterday and bought a bucket. Yep. So this is the kind of thing that we're talking about. This is the thing that excites everyone. I think probably is that you just give it one example, and probably sometimes in zero shot as well. I haven't explored much of that, but then yeah, definitely that is also a very good use case. Let me just explain it to you like how this stuff works. So probably everything that's in here, as Tari already told, is a token. A token could start with a space. So probably over here, the space before the and till the end of E could be one token. And the current limitations are that the entire thing has to be within 2,000 tokens. And there are two parts to the tokens: the token that you provide and the token that GPT generates. And the token that you provide are generally called prompts, and the token that is generated by GPT is called a completion. So this is all you need to know, and you can just then probably start working and start making some really cool stuff with it. So now this is the playground. This is where you can actually experiment with stuff, and you can actually come to a good use case. Once you feel that you have something that you want to work on, you can start making, you can start getting on and start getting technical. So probably this is Jupyter Notebook. I'm pretty sure that most of y'all who work with Python will be very familiar with this. So it works right out of the browser. You can just can you guys see my screen? Can you see
Yes, we can see the screen. Yeah.
Yeah. So now I generally tend to work from scratch, but however, OpenAI has also provided a Python library for this. But then I generally work directly from the endpoints. So I just took in 4 libraries. There's a request library using which you can make a GET request, and so this is the endpoint on which you can call a specific model. So if you look at this, there are 5-6 different models for GPT-3 that they've actually made. And you can come in here and you can just select one of those models. So it's basically ADA, there's Babbage, there's Curie, there's DaVinci, there's DaVinci version 2, and there's DaVinci version 2D. So these models have different levels of parameters. All of them belong to the GPT-3 family, and DaVinci is the best one. So it might take actually a lot of time to and a lot of compute to give you a response. So it's good for experimenting part. If you want to experiment with something, some new idea, and if you want to see if GPT-3 is able to actually work with it, you can use the DaVinci model. Over time, if you feel that your use case is something that that's being taken care of, you can move to the less expensive models such as ADA or Babbage, which will provide you much lower latency.
Yeah.
So now if you want to hack something up and you want to build something, then probably what you can do is you can just set up the URL over here. You can provide the model name here. I generally use the DaVinci model, but based on your use case, you can actually keep switching between the different models. And this completion is the type of use case which you're using for. Most of the there are other use cases beside completion as well, but those are not that kind of popular. So we can just stick to this. So now there's an API key that you will be provided. You can just use that once you actually access, and then you can just keep filling in prompts. So this is one way in which you could generate prompts for like a coding example, and I can just one second. So yeah, so and this is where you actually give it what is the So in prompt, provide the prompt, the text that you actually want to give it for completion. Then the number of tokens. So here you can provide how many tokens should GPT generate for this particular prompt. The temperature. So temperature is a really cool thing. Temperature is something that you can vary between 0 and 1. And if you want the model to be deterministic, then you can go with 0. And if you want the model to be highly creative, then you can go with 1. So basically, how the completion is generated is that it gives you a log probability of the next word. It will be multiple to complete the sentence, and it will give you that these are log probability of this the next word in the sequence. And if you go with 0 temperature, it will just pick the highest one. And if you go with 1 temperature, it will be stochastic, and it will try to pick the one. It will try to sample it out of based on the probability. So yeah, that's temperature for you. And then there's streaming. So if you want to stream constantly, and if you want to whatever the GPT generated and you want to reuse it, then you can use the stream flag. There's log probability. If you log probability of each and every word that was generated and what was the probability of that word being there, and then the stop. So you can provide a stop signal, that the signal at which the GPT-3 should stop generating more tokens. So how it works basically, if a word like a part of a word in my case. So pretty simple, right? And now you can just go ahead and you can just use the URL that you provided. Headers, you have to provide API key and the data that we just kind of compiled over here, which is the configuration. So if you just provide this particular prompt, then this is the response that is generated. It takes quite some time. So probably it may take up to 10 seconds in this case. Let's see. Yeah. So this is how you get the response, and this text part is what you're actually interested in. So the question that I asked was code in Python a for loop, and I just gave it two examples: code for printing hello world and code for current time in Python. And now it was able to generate a for loop in Python just right out of the box. Cool. And
Very
so
nice.
these are some more ways, and probably you can just make it as like a question answer thing. Probably you can just ask it some question and you can kind of generate a response for that. So this is how. Now let's get to the what everyone was excited about, the tweet generating thing, right? So
I like this too. I mean, I remember 3 years ago, I had used, or was 3 or 4 years ago, when people were using RNN and LSTM to actually create sort of interesting text generation. And so using temperature and all those very interesting sort of hyperparameters to play around with. But go ahead.
Yeah. So basically, this is very, very basic. Now, if you look at it, so basically, these are some tweets that I just picked right out of from Naval Ravikant's feed, and say probably the word market features in there, then the word chillin features in here, and then the word startup features in here. So now it's more than enough for GPT-3 to know that what I want out of it. And now what I need to do is I just need to give it another word. So how this thing currently is working is, if you look at the last key, I've just left a formatting key, which most of the Python developers will understand. Is basically I can fit in a word here from the word that the user puts in into the URL. So right now, I can just put in any word. Tari, could you help me with the word here?
Okay. Words. I don't know. Empathy.
Empathy. Yeah, that's a pretty cool word. Yeah, so let's see what GPT comes out with the word empathy. Yep. If you don't want fake empathy, don't even want the
Yeah, nice one. Nice.
Yep. So let's say Bitcoin. Let me just try this out. Like, what's with Bitcoin? So until it's impossible to star in a Bitcoin commercial and get paid in Bitcoin, it's just an alternate currency.
Nice.
Yeah, so this is how it works basically. So it's just
very cool.
Very basic stuff. You just make a post request and you just put in the key right in the place, and whatever is the completion, you just kind of print it out.
Very cool.
Yeah. So probably let me just switch to some other screen where I can just walk you through the code. If you just like, for the people who actually interested in much more code than this, let me.
Sure. Maybe, yeah, also the interface, the front end, back end is also nice to see. So how it generates and how it spits out, for example, this interesting tweet generator, stuff like that.
So let me just switch my screen.
Whatever you share, you can already share yourself. I'll just put it up on the screen.
Okay.
And I'll keep throwing questions, guys. I know. So this is really exciting. While Sushant is working on putting up his screen. Go ahead.
So so Ravinder is asking, does it also get you information on current affairs? So GPT-3 was trained on billions of tokens, and it was obviously trained on the internet. It was trained on the internet crawl, and it has been trained on data up till September 2019. So no, so your answer to this question would be no. You'll have to constantly keep training it, and I'm actually sharing my entire screen just so that I can just keep switching between the screens.
Up to you.
Yeah. So let me just first get to the tweet generator. So now, so it's pretty basic. I can just show you the app. So what you guys can just do is I actually use Heroku. So the same prompt that we use there, I just pasted it in here, right here. And there's a default prompt. So basically, random tweets generated. They just didn't want they were very lazy. They were like, just give me a tweet. So for this, I would have used this prompt. and for a specific place where you wanted the key, like I wanted this one. And then the same things that I just walked you through is the tokens, the number of tokens that you want, what is the temperature that you want, what is the log probability that you want, when you want to stop. Over here, I'm using the new line character as a stopping point, wherein wherever the line ends. So I don't want the tweet to be just like a one sentence. I want it to be more than that if possible. And I was facing a lot of issues with a lot of racist and stuff and all these kind of things being generated. So I had to censor a lot of words manually initially. Over time, I started using the content filter, but initially I had to block a lot of tweets that were surfacing which were not really good, and they were kind of toxic. So I had these censor words over here, but there are better ways to do this. So right now, this is how you handle the default route. So on a browser, if you go with the default route, if you didn't provide any key, and if you provide a key, this key will be stored in this key variable. And now I can just pass it in. And over here, you can just have a look at the different ways in which it actually just extracts it. Then it kind of returns. Then I actually also store it. So like every tweet that gets generated actually gets stored as well, because I wanted to provide lower latency over time, and also the IP address of the people, so that people doing random stuff. So obviously you know about the attacks that were happening on the system and stuff like that. So security protocol that I actually took. So yeah, so this is pretty basic. Now I can just kind of run this, and I can just show you how this thing works. So probably Flask is pretty basic. I'm pretty sure a lot of people would actually just know it right off the box. So you can just run WSGI and then run the app. Yeah. So yeah, it takes a moment to kind of you guys can see my screen, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So it fires up the web app.
Yep. Yep. So it's on and it's running on 127 points. So localhost 88,000. So now we can go to the browser and we can open that up and we can just see a tweet for us waiting there. Yeah. Yeah. So I bet on the jockey and not the horse. That's a pretty good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this was the one that's actually got a lot of attention. However, there are a lot of other use cases as well, and some really good ones. So I had recently been working with one of my friends, Nishant, on the Industry 4 bot, and this is something that turned out really, really well for us. So now this bot was something again that I created with my friend over a course of a night, and it works pretty cool. And probably you can make a bot for anything out of the box. So let me just show you the code for this as well. So this is also again pretty basic. And what you try to do over here is, this is the entire chatbot, and you just give it a prompt, and like this is a chat between Ben and Sushant. Sushant is an expert on industry. So context is really important again. So if you tell it that Sushant is an industry expert on 4.0, it will try to generate an answer from that perspective. This is an industry 4.0 expert and driving cultural change in the organization. Sushant also helps understanding organization implementing. So yeah, random, and then you can just kind of feed in your question here, and then Sushant will try to answer that. So again, similar stuff. Over here, I'm trying to use the OpenAI's Python library instead of making raw requests that I was doing in the previous one. Over here, I'm using the OpenAI library right out of the box. You can do a pip install OpenAI. Over here, it will be much simpler. You just have to provide the API key to get started, and then you can just choose the first response that you actually get. So now let's just run this as well. I think it's already running. Yeah, it's running on localhost 5,000. So I'm sorry, guys. So yeah. So now let me, Tari, can you think of a question for manufacturing?
Industry 4.0. Okay. IoT devices will power the 5G economy. Will IoT devices power the 5G economy?
Let's see. Good one, Terry. Oh my God, yeah. I think GPT thinks that it will power the,
Yeah.
yeah. So
And
yeah,
what about what? Maybe let's ask a difficult question.
yeah. Let's have something
Let's
difficult.
ask a
Just very
question.
short. Yeah.
Um, will 5G allow uh, will 5G allow mobile edge computing? Will 5G allow mobile edge computing to succeed? All these are closed questions, so he says yes or no. I want him to say more things.
My God, it's just
Yes,
filling.
yeah, he's choosing for simple. If I ask an open question,
Yeah,
okay,
it should ask more open questions rather than yes.
uh,
How will
5G. How will the manufacturing? How will the automotive industry benefit from IoT? And mix it up. IoT. How will wait. How will the from IoT, IoT and AI? I know there's a lot of paper and stuff written on it.
it takes a while though sometimes. So we are
Of
using the Da
course,
Vinci model for this as well. Yeah. So
by reducing the cost of production and increasing the quality of the product. Okay, this is just picked up from some McKinsey guy who's been writing this to all his customers. But
yeah.
still, I mean, okay,
Yeah, I mean
yeah,
it's pretty intelligent. That probably probably it's human like. Probably it's not that it makes the most sense, but then it seems kind of sensible. It seems
yeah,
not
yeah.
originate from the top. Yeah. So I got a question. Importance of what is the importance of industry 4.0? Like,
Cool. Let's try to kind of also start moving towards closing up the
yeah,
demos. And
yeah.
is there anything else you want to show, Sushant? Or some important
Um,
insight that people need to
I
hear?
would want to answer questions. Yeah, I would want to answer questions. I'm not able to actually see the screen, the questions. If you want to help me out with some questions, then probably I will. What is the
Sure, I'll do that. Yeah.
yeah.
So, for example, what is the importance of culture in I 4.0?
Okay. Oh, you want me to ask this question to the bot?
No, no. This guy, I think so. He wanted you to ask that question. So probably this is not a question for us. Let's say, okay, here. This is a question from Pavan Patro.
Okay.
How efficient is it when it comes to identifying context of a word having different meanings? Yeah, semantic ambiguity is always a challenge. I mentioned that also some time ago. So maybe I'll take that question, Pawan. I think this semantic ambiguity is something which language models still actually need to learn. And especially when you add a complex component of cultures. For example, I have been living in the Netherlands for 25 odd years. I know that there are many jokes I still struggle to understand, even they have some interesting connotations. I have learned the semantic context and also the behavioral context around these words. It becomes very difficult for humans to actually understand from people from different culture. I don't think there is a magic bullet when you come to identifying context as far as I know. But I don't know, Sushant, is there you have some other meanings around this?
Identify context of the word having different meanings. Um, so basically, I actually feel that it kind of generates some kind of a probability around it. Probably, I still feel it's stochastic. So every time I give it the same word, it generally comes out with a different thing. So probably, um, uh, I'm actually not very sure about this.
Yeah, that's totally fine. I think, but it's a very good question. I think it's fundamentally a very interesting question. Another question from Kumar.
Can GPT-3 do an app deployment similar way it has created the app in any of the hosting websites? Yeah, so basically GPT-3 is just an API. What you can do is you can set it up at your backend, and whenever your front end makes a request, you actually use the API key that you have for the GPT-3, and you can make a request to the OpenAI server. And what they do is they kind of are actually guarding the model through a server. They take that through a post request, and then they pass it on to the model, and the model generates a response, and that response is then passed on to you. You do not get direct access to the model, and that's the way it's structured right now. I'm not sure how it's going to play out in the future, but then you get access to that particular thing through an API key that you have. If you have the right API key, you will get through to the model. If you don't, then OpenAI will actually kind of block you. So there's a lot of thing around building production level stuff with it, because OpenAI has control over the entire thing. So I'd be really careful with building something on top of this. But then it just works out of the box, whatever, and its environment is super simple. You can just push it, and it gets deployed within minutes.
Cool. Next question is, does the corpus include Stack Overflow? That'll be cool.
I actually haven't checked this out, but then probably they said that it was a crawl, and I'm pretty sure that Stack Overflow surfaces up pretty often in the general crawl. So I'm pretty sure it will include that, because the larger corpus was the World Wide Web, and which definitely had things like Reddit, Stack Overflow, and all these different chunks. So I'm pretty sure it would have Stack Overflow with it, but I cannot be like can give a definitive answer, but then I'm definitely sure that it must have based on the corpus.
Yeah, I have the list of the data sets here from the paper. So Common Crawl, which actually scraped everything which was on the internet, I believe, till September last year, it has 60% of the weight in the training mix. So it's like massive. If you just look at the tokens, it has 410 billion tokens, and I'm just reading out of the paper. And then it had web text, so Common Crawl, web text, books, I believe books 1, books 2, I don't know what they mean, it's a collection of books, I believe.
Google Books 1 and
Google Books, oh yeah, from their platform. And Wikipedia. Wikipedia, surprisingly, has just 3 billion tokens, which is the smallest, in 3% in the training mix. So Common Crawl probably scraped a lot of stuff, maybe GitHub, Stack Overflow, Stack Exchange. I think those are very interesting things, and that's how people have been developing sort of all these interesting generators also, right, for autocomplete your software code and all that stuff.
Yeah. Another interesting thing that I observed was probably for Industry 4.0, it quoted right out of some books, probably some of the really, really good books in Industry 4.0. And me and my friends, we were testing it out. It quoted something which were very definitive. Obviously, if it's a definition, like probably the only thing that even GPT-3 can do is quote a definition out of the book. So so it does quote. So that Google Books 1 that Tari mentioned, that Google Books 1, Google Books 2, it's definitely there. And I've actually seen a quote then when I actually cross-referenced it with the internet, and I actually found the source to be a Google book.
Cool. Shiti also has another question.
Yeah, Shiti. So great work on GPT-3 tweet generator. There is also some conversation floating around that will give rise to a new breed of startup. Do you agree with it? What are the limitations? I definitely feel that a lot of startups will come in edtech specifically. There are a lot of things that are pretty basic, and we are involving humans for that right now. And I believe that that if a machine which is very highly scalable can answer very, very simple questions, which actually have to be answered by a human right now. And similarly, for other stuff as well. But this seems like the most basic application as of me, and EdTech is definitely going to be totally revamped. And I already know quite a lot of people, especially Make Whitley. You can check him out. He's making this really cool website where you can learn from anyone. So if you want to learn about rockets, you can give a context like, hey, hi there, this is a conversation between Sushant and Elon Musk. Elon Musk is the founder of SpaceX. Yeah, and then you can start asking questions. So now GPT-3 understands that Elon Musk knows about rockets, and now and like obviously it was trained on some data as well. And it can now you can ask questions related to rocket and rocket propulsion fuels and stuff, and it will just come out with answers. So you just can't buy Elon Musk time, but then you can obviously get access to GPT-3 easily.
Cool. Next, is it possible? Is there a possibility because of the size of the model, it has memorized most of the context?
Yeah, that's quite possible. Basically, it's 175 billion parameters. So there are a lot of things that come right out of the training set also. But then in a lot of cases, it does generate a lot of content that's actually not there on the internet. And a lot of people have actually shared with me that many times that a lot of the tweets that have been generated, obviously, like majority of them have never been found on the internet. Some obviously have are right out of the training set, and but I definitely feel that it's a language model. It's just a probability of what is the next word that's going to come in that particular context. So it may obviously be already generated, but then with the way you sample from those probabilities generated, you could actually get a different answer as well.
Awesome. I guess so. We are kind of coming closer to an hour, which typically is a lot for you to consume. I can imagine for people who have not been playing with NLP or language models, that this might be a bit sort of look like, wow, it's like a black box, and look what these people are doing. My personal advice would be, and then definitely I would like to get Sushant's take also on this. My personal advice to be for the rest of you is indeed, I think, on the question which one of you asked is, yes, I think the opportunity to build amazing sort of, tools, add-ons, chatbots, and or full-fledged sort of platform services with either GPT or models that are, that have other forms of intelligence gathering. They will be very advanced in the next 4 to 5 years. So there's a lot of field in to explore when it comes to language understanding and language generation. So my advice would be to, if you are a beginner, get used to get familiarized with the basic fundamental concepts of, tokenization, word to vector, vector to word, basically in simple, very simple sort of terms. Essentially, you need to convert this information into numbers and mathematical context that allows you to be able to do matrix multiplication, and then again output that in forms of lists of probabilities, and then that outputs that back into converts it back from your numbers back into text. So essentially, that is what it's not any different from what machine learning or computer vision models is specifically computer vision models do. I can imagine that in computer vision models, which many people have learned to understand, it's visual, so you tend to kind of make understanding of how pixels across a board, and that's how you should try to look at text. And that's where the semantic context to one of the persons who was asking this question. When you look at a picture, we've taught the convolution neural networks to understand the adjacencies of these pictures, and that's how they reconstruct the image, and they give you some reasonable output. In semantic, in text information, LSTM and GRU and all these other interesting models and transformers now have been clever and intelligent enough to understand that the context could change even in one single corpus, because it goes and it swings and it sways. So it would be great, as I said again, from industry perspective, whether you are in the healthcare industry, manufacturing, any other industry, to simplify and make your systems better, optimal. This is where you save a lot of money. Startups are able to help you in actually optimizing your value chain, reducing your cost of implementation. For example, there was an example of someone, actually, I was reading a few days ago, that conversion of software, for example, legacy software, into some modern language like React or Golang, which Google and all these other companies use, is a huge exercise. It literally costs millions of dollars, if not tens of millions of dollars worth of customer projects. So imagine if you build a company or build a startup that is able to convert Java into Python. I mean, we've all played, you and I, we've played, I mean, if you're programmers, you played around with, converting Java to Python. There are many online tools. But imagine massive legacy software stacks where you understand the context, and then you're able to convert it into software within a matter of weeks, instead of taking 18 months to do whole legacy transformation. Can save the company literally tens of millions of dollars. And for you, for your startup idea, it becomes a massive opportunity for you to actually expand your vision and take your vision to investors and raise capital. So this is, I think, for startups, this is a fascinating area to actually play around with. And for you as a professional, for myself as well included, I mean, I code on a daily basis myself, besides running my companies. So I think it's important to kind of keep focusing that machine learning and deep learning is an interesting area to be in. Stay close to the ground, stay close to the surface, and ground zero. Keep your eyes open, and I think with that you will be able to have a lot of fun. And GPT or
Yes.
other new models that will emerge into the market will give you tremendous actually opportunities to actually optimize business models and create wonderful sort of software products. So this is my advice to all of you guys. And I don't know, Sushant, do you have something to add around how to look at this ecosystem going forward?
Yeah, so like more or less what you said, and I was just wondering if you guys want to build something, if you have some ideas around something, feel free to reach out to me. And probably if you like, I just saw a question which was saying like probably you can share the code, or probably if a lot of people are interested, then I will definitely make a GitHub repo and then I'll add the code there. It'll take some time. So if there's quite a lot of interest around it, I can actually do that. So let me know if what are you guys interested in the comments. Like what are the things that you feel can find good applications for this GPT-3, and anything that you feel that all of us can help you out with. We'll be more than happy to help you out with anything as far as possible. We'll be more
I
than
think
happy to.
yeah, this is a great question, but I'll let Sushant answer this. I have some wonderful thoughts, but please go ahead. What do you think about this?
So does GPT-3 make anything obsolete, say any search engine, or does it take away a few jobs performed by humans? Terry and Sushant would say on this. Yeah. So I wouldn't really say that will make the search engine obsolete, because search engines are more about a lot more than so search engines are actually about a variety of data, right? It's actually a kind of an index to the entire web pages. GPT-3 can give you answers to your questions, but making it an index that keeps updating on real time is something that I'm slightly skeptical about. I have obviously there's a guy called Paras Chopra who had actually released something on this, and where he had made an engine called Search Ask Me Anything. They could ask a question and it just generated a Wikipedia link for that, and it also kind of generated short answer to that. However, these links were actually learned by the model, and probably I'm not sure how that would scale. Yeah, but then I definitely feel some of the software could definitely get obsolete, but I'm not actually sure how much of search engines actually can get obsolete. So I can just Terry, would you like to add anything to this?
No, I think what I think is that it's a great question actually. By the way, from actually regional perspectives, there's a lot
Mhm.
of questions around. American companies have built search engines. Chinese companies also have their own search engine like Baidu. In Europe, there are some other interesting projects that have raised some millions of euros to build their search engine. I think my advice would be to actually, you should see GPT as being a block. You put it on top of search engines, and then make the search probably intelligenter. I know it's not a word, but I'm just kind of creating this word here. It makes it further, it brings more context to your question than a search does typically today. So imagine if you're looking for, I was just having a discussion, and I think me and Sushant are having an internal private discussion. We cannot share it publicly right now, but I can share in generality that, for example, let's say you're looking for a job, you're in Mumbai, and your search engine doesn't know who you are. So you don't tell everything to your search engine. So you don't say, my name is Terry. I was born in actually Goa, and then I was born and raised in Mumbai. But now I'm actually getting sick and tired of my boss. And in fact, I hate my life, and actually I hate my industry. I want to get out of this, and I want to start my food truck in Mexico. So the search engine is going to say, I have no idea what to do with you. But imagine if you can start having a conversation, Q&A, 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 Q&A with your GPT, which is built on top of that search engine, whether Baidu, Google, Bing, whatever. And then it gives you a very intelligent advice around, well, I don't know, give you some advice around why do you hate yourself? Why do you hate your boss? Maybe you should try to find your peace or something. And if you want to make a food truck, by the way, if you go to Bandra, there's probably some interesting food trucks out there. Have you ever been there? So I think search, it will make search more semantic, more let's say semantically intelligent. That's would be my, I think
Yeah.
building on top of search engines would be very fun.
Yeah, exactly. So like when Terry was talking, like this was a really, really good thing that Terry brought up, is probably what it could do is basically if you could give the entire context and then you could ask a question, it could tweak that question in such a way and it would give it to the search engine in such a way that it generates the relevant responses for you, and probably it can then obviously do another heavy lifting for you is pick the ideal responses from those particular generated responses by the search engine. So search engine returns 10 responses, you can pick the good one for you. So it can be a good intermediator between them, and probably it can whatever you generate, it could generate the best keywords for that, and obviously from the response that the search engine generates, it could give you the best one, picking out the best one for you. So that could be a good use case. Yeah.
I know some of the researchers we talk to are also looking at models that are kind of transfer learning, so TTL. So in a way, what they're saying is GPT has generalized a major part of web, and it is a point in time in history. In 2019 September, they did something. You could build your own specific data set based on real, more semantic information, which is coming from audio. I know there's a researcher in Hyderabad who's doing that with online video lectures. There is this big Indian platform, I forgot the name of the platform, where lectures are given constantly in all languages. And so people are not changing, creating sort of multi-language semantic translation. The possibilities are endless. I think if you are able to build the context, imagine if this right now you have a layer between your GPT and then you have context in which you are asking intelligent questions, GPT gives you intelligent answer. Now, if you build on top of that another sort of your model, where you can take transfer learning from that model, which can be very specific to your domain, and then apply GPT on top, or maybe potentially some other, let's say, a pre-trained model that actually really enhances and makes it even far more intelligenter. Then I say again, intelligenter, it's not a word. So basically, it goes into a narrow domain and gives you a lot of intelligence. And I think then, and I don't want to start a long discussion, but I think then we will be coming very close to a rather human, very, very realistic conversation. But fascinating, Sushant. I think this is really great. I'm happy to have actually known you and connected with you. And I believe there are requests. Sushant will get back to you guys. Please reach out to him on LinkedIn or other places. And whenever it's possible, he's going to definitely sort of also put up stuff on GitHub. I'll let Sushant handle that. He needs to figure out with OpenAI before putting stuff online. But I think it's wonderful, awesome, Sushant. We've learned a lot together and from you, and I hope for the audience as well. It's great.
Yeah.
Cool. So thank you, everybody. We're going to be shutting down. Sushant, do stay. Don't get off. I'll end the broadcast and we can have a sort of a quick evaluation. So take care, guys, and see you guys soon. And have a great weekend. Have a great weekend.
Yeah. Have a great Independence Day. Keep it back.
Yes, have a wonderful Independence Day. It is indeed.